Hi, this is Eric from longboxreview.com. Welcome to the show and welcome to another comic chat. This time featuring books that I read during the month of July 2021. And I'll also do a little bit of a preview spotlight for things that I saw in the October 2021 previews. And I think I have just a couple things to say about DC Fandom, the event that occurred on October 16th, 2021. All right. So as far as the books that I'll be featuring this time, I'll be spotlighting the Eden one-shot from Aftershock, the Marvels #1 from Marvel Comics, and finally Crossover Volume 1, Kids Love Chains from Image Comics. I also read We Only Find Them When They're Dead Volume 1, Thor, the Devourer King Volume 1, a Marvel Tales one-shot, Black Widow, The Ties That Bind, Volume 1, Serial #3, The Union #5, Truth and Justice #3, and Spencer and Locke, Volume 1. All right, but first, DC Fandom. So I spent a good 3.5-ish hours on Saturday, October 16th, watching the second DC Fandom event. And that was cool. I quite enjoyed that. I hope to be talking about this in more detail in some way soon, as I record this anyway. It's probably already happened by the time you listen to this episode. But anyway, I will just say that I wish that there was a little bit more focus on the comic book side of DC Comics, DC Fandom. But, there we are. It's more about the multimedia stuff, which makes sense, I suppose. But so as far as the comic book stuff, and that's the only thing I'll mention here on this show, at least for now, is that we're going to get the return of the Blood Syndicate series from Milestone. Jim Lee mentioned specifically the Warworld saga in the Superman books. We're getting my favorite from the DC Festival of Heroes special that came out some months ago. The Monkey Prince is getting a miniseries, which is cool. And then finally, we're getting a Wonder Woman event in DC Comics, The Trial of the Amazons. Oh, not finally. That was next to last. And then finally, they talked about new Webtoons content. So there's the Wayne family, whatever the Batman thing is on Webtoons, which I just started reading actually. So there you go. Like I said, I hope to be talking more about DC Fandom in the future, from my future, not your maybe. I don't know. Who knows? Okay. Hey, this is Future Eric, hacking the signal to let you know that I did appear on the DC All-Stars podcast, episode 74, to talk about all those good things coming out of DC Fandom. So be sure to click the link in the show notes to go directly to that episode and listen to Daryl, Hassan, Jim, and I talk about all that stuff from DC Fandom. Now back to Past Me. Before I get into the books, let's talk about some preview spotlights for the previews, like I said, in October. Hopefully this episode will be out before the end of October. Ooh, I better hurry up and edit. Anyway, so maybe you can order them after the fact. I don't know. A few things that I saw that caught my eye that may be of interest to you as well. We get a collection of Catwoman When in Rome, deluxe edition by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. I have a lot of the Loeb Sale collaborations that they did. I have not read this one. I don't know that I'll be ordering it, but it did make me go and add it to my DC Universe app to read in the future. Something I've already read before, but I'm gonna buy this because I have all the others. Is the Legion of Superheroes Before the Darkness? This is the second volume of the Before the Darkness collection. I don't know why they title these things the way they do, but they're just continuing the publication of the Legion of Superheroes book, the Volume 2 version of the book. This collects issues number 272 to 283, as well as, I assume, just the Legion story from DC Special Series number 21, which is that particular issue was full of Christmas related stories. and the Best of DC Blue Ribbon Digest number 24, which I assume will, again, just be the Murder in Glass or original story that was made for that digest. So this collection, this is going to be a fun collection for me to have. I already have the issues. In fact, at one point I had, or maybe I still do, duplicates of some of these issues because my originals were not in great shape, so I bought new ones, better condition copies of these. Anyway, this contains issue 275, which I believe was the start of my regular collecting of the Legion of Superheroes. And then issues 277 through 282 was the Reflecto Saga and the return of Superboy to the Legion. So that was my first major Legion of Superheroes story. And I think that's a bit of a doozy. It focuses on what happens in 275 is that, well, I guess it was 274, but the Legion thinks Ultra Boy is dead, only he's not. He's lost his memory and has joined this pirate band. And then something happens that sort of turns him into Reflecto, so to speak. I won't spoil it if you haven't read it, but it's a great story. Ooh, that reminds me. Maybe I should do a focus on that in a future long box review episode. So, we shall see. Anyway, I quite enjoyed that era of the Legion. That's like I said, that's kind of my introduction to the Legion. I got a few issues before that I think I've talked about here on the show many episodes ago. But like I said, 275 was when it was like, hey, I want to collect this series. And so there I went and collected it for many years. I also noticed in previews that there is a facsimile comic of the first issue of Conan, the Roy Thomas, is it Sal Buscema issue? And I've never read any of the Conan stuff. So I think I might get that just to see. It's got a great cover, for sure. I also noticed that there is a deluxe edition of the series Velvet, a book that Ed Brubaker and Steve Epting did, what I think it came out in 2013. Anyway, this has long been one of my very favorite comic book series. I love it. Features this character, spy character, Velvet. Can't remember if that was her name or that was her spy name. Anyway, it's been a while. I need to go reread that. Maybe I'll probably get, did I already say this? I'm not probably going to get the deluxe edition collecting this. It's such a great story. And finally, I noticed also that there is a Firefly holiday special from Boom, that I'll have to get. I love Firefly. That whole series. I got a bunch of the books, comic books, and it's a holiday special. I'm like, how is that going to work? So, and who knows, that may be something that George and I will feature in our Christmas gab bag down the road. So there you go. Some books from previews, October previews. All right, let's head into the comic books now. This is Eden. It's a one shot from Aftershock. This is by Cullen Bunn. Dalibor Talic is the artist. Valentina Brischke did the colors, and Marshall Dillon did the letters. So I think I mentioned this before on the show. I'm a fan of one shots, and I try to get one shots when I see them solicited. And this is one of those I thought was really interesting. It is an oversized book, which I did not know because I don't pay attention to the size of these books when I order them. But I'm glad it is, because it really, as I'll talk about in just a minute, it really contributes to the overall quality of the book. So anyway, Eden by those creators. It says here on the back, love can leave a lasting impression. Tattoo artist Niles lives his life in a kind of daze. Minute after minute, he muddles through the repetitive moments of his job, his life, and his guilt. All that changes when Eden walks through the doors of the tattoo shop. She's looking for something different, and she finds it with Niles. But Eden is a woman surrounded by deep mysteries, not the least of which is how and why her new tattoos vanish after only a few days. As Niles learns more about Eden, he is driven to fathomless depths of both love and horror. I will admit, I love this comic more for the art than the story. The story, while a nice read, and we get some interesting characters, or at least character introductions anyway. It's really more like a Twilight Zone story about grief and betrayal with a touch of magic and the sinister at the end. What I really like about it, though, generally speaking, is that it's about creation, both the little c version of creation and the big C version of the word. The lead female character, Eden, and maybe a little too on the nose, that name, considering what happens at the end of this. She has an unusual garden that she helps create, big C, through the artistic creations, little c, of the tattoo artists that she hires to do the ink on her. I don't want to say any more than that, so as not to spoil the story for you, but because this is such a good one shot. You really need to get it. The Talich and Brishke's art is wonderful. Besides, you get a good 3 or 4 tattoo designs. Oh, and speaking of which, if there's anybody out there who is a tattoo artist or a tattoo aficionado, I would love to hear your takes on this book and what they show about the tattoo art, the way that Niles is shown giving the tattoo. That would be great. That'd be really interesting to hear that side of things. I also love how Talich lets the pages breathe with white space. So given the oversized nature of this book, there's a lot of page space to play with, and it's not filled to the brim with art. And I love that. It's many times there is like there's a tattoo design at the top of one page that just has a white background. So it's letting the art fill that space, but also, like I said, letting it breathe, it's not confined to a panel border. I really enjoyed the construction of the artistic narrative of this book. Talich also uses. So instead of like overlapping word balloons over panels to direct your eye to the panel flow, he uses the actual the characters or the art itself to direct your eye, and I really like how he does that so seamlessly. And sometimes it's with panels, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes, like there was one that I remember where we see Niles's arm as with holding the, I don't know what you call the thing that they use to tattoo with. I should look these things up before I start recording. Anyway, so the way that the arm is curved a little bit to the right, because this is on the left side of the page, that leads your eye so effortlessly to the panel in which he's actually doing the tattoo on Eden. So I love that kind of stuff. It's so cool. At one point in the story, one of the tattoo artists that's in the shop with Niles tells him, "You've got to want something different." And now, obviously, that's talking about his life. But in this comic, these comic book artists are it in terms of something different than on the page. This is not like Bill Sienkiewicz type artist, but this is different than a lot of things I've read, especially recently. So I highly recommend you check this out. If you're not able to find a copy of the print comic, it is available on Comixology. So you can explore this comic that way. Heck, you could zoom in and see all the wonderful art. I just really enjoyed it, and I hope you do too. Okay, The Marvels from Marvel. This is by Kurt Busiek, Ildare Senar, and Richard Isanove. I hope I did that right. With Alex Ross covers. There was no way I wasn't going to read this. This is Busiek, and you got wonderful Alex Ross covers. But it's well. Let me just read the the description here. Oh, and I missed Simon Bolin is the letterer on this. So, okay. It says here, anyone, anywhere, any time. The Marvel Universe, from the Big Bang to beyond the end of time, from the Avengers to the X-Men, from Arcus to Zax, from the Kree Empire to the Dark Dimensions and into the unknown, it ranges vast and deep. And there have been adventures too big for any one series until now. The Marvels. Part 1, The Birth of Madness. And then at the end here, I mean, that doesn't really tell you much, right? But it's good hype. So in the back, Kurt Busiek has a little afterword. And he says here, our motto for the series is anyone, anywhere, anytime, like I said. And we take this seriously. The whole idea of the Marvels is that we get to use the whole Marvel Universe, all the characters, all the history, the whole thing. I think I described it early on like a Tom Clancy or John Grisham thriller in that we'll see multiple story threads going on that can come together and split apart again, or maybe never even meet. Characters can do something important that affects the story, but without ever seeing the rest of it. Or events from the past can be important to the future in ways no one ever realized. It's all connected, but that doesn't mean that the players all know it. The Marvels isn't a team, it's a concept, a universe, a sprawling world of opportunity. Everything you see in this first issue will come together, but not without going to some weird and interesting places along the way. The fuse is lit. Now we get to find out where all the explosives are planted. And then finally, Marvels, the previous series he worked on, was about an ordinary guy's view of the Marvels. The Marvels, this series, is about the Marvels themselves. We're focused on the super characters and big sweeping adventure. So kind of like it's a thematic continuation of what he started in Marvels with Alex Ross. And so, I didn't know all that when I ordered this. I just, that first kind of series blurb was all I knew, and the fact that it was Busiek writing it and Sinar drawing it. So I was in right there, and in to the point where I am getting the single issues instead of waiting for a collection. So which that's my mode of reading these days, is waiting for collections for the most part. But I wanted to get this because I thought it would be a really wonderful way to celebrate the Marvel Universe history, and just read a book with a bunch of the Marvel characters that I love. So, and this didn't disappoint. So generally speaking, there are a lot of scenes in this book from different time periods that incorporate Marvel history. For example, at the beginning, we briefly see the All-Winter Squad in 1947. And then at various points previous to what we would think of as now, and that's when the pinpoints of time is a bit more vague in this book, which I understand. It makes sense to do it that way. For example, such as Reed Richards and Ben Grimm before their fateful flight. We see Flash Thompson in the Army, and he's still Spider-Man's biggest fan. Captain America and others in the near future going up against Lady Lotus, whom we saw in the 1947 flashback. And then we also see the new guy, Kevin Schumer, who runs the Kashum superhero tours in New York City. And he also appears in that near future scene with Captain America. So how does, just like Busiek was saying, how does this all come together, and how do we get from point A to point B? And so it was a fun romp through a little bit of Marvel history, things that we haven't seen before though. And that's the neat thing about this. There is, the issue ends with a conversation between motorcycle riding character Ace and what I wrote here as the David Bowie wannabe character Threadneedle, who apparently first appeared, according to my limited research, in History of the Marvel Universe number 6, which I haven't read yet. I have the collection, I haven't read it yet. So yeah, I don't know how this is all gonna come together or how it's gonna go. So I love it when comics historian Busick plays within the Marvel Universe, or really any universe. But I can see a lot of similarities here, at least in some elements, to what he's done in Astro City, especially with the new, street level character in Kevin. He's playing to his Busick's playing to his strengths, and then the Cosmic Observer type character Threadneedle, which looks and appears to function the same as another character that he had in his most recent run of Astro City comics from when DC was publishing them. So it's almost like Tom Brevoort called him up and said, "Hey, Kurt, I dig Astro City, baby. I love it. Why don't you strum the same vibe here in the good old Marvel U?" Boy, that sounded much better in my head. Anyway, something like that. Anyway. Despite that apparent shortcoming, I'm all in for this wild ride. Like I said, I'm getting these monthly instead of waiting for trades. So we'll see how that continues. I probably will just continue with this until I decide I don't like it for some reason. I can't imagine why, but there you go. It's one of just a handful of comic books that I'm now getting as in single issue form. So that says something to me. All right, finally, I have here Crossover Kids Love Change. This is volume 1 of the series collected from Image Comics. This is by Donnie Cates, who does the story. Jeff Shaw does the art. D. Cuniff colors. John J. Hill letters and design. And Mark Waid story edits, which I thought was interesting. Okay. When I first saw this comic book in previews and I read the solicitation, I'm like, oh, that sounds like fun. That's like right up my alley. But here we go for what this book is about. Imagine everything you thought was fantasy was real, and now join us in a world where reality is dead and anything is possible. After the event alters the world as we know it, Ellie, Otto, and Ava embark on a 4-color odyssey through magical Colorado. Mysterious and familiar? Superheroes join our intrepid team of heroes searching for a way to shatter the dome and expose the truth. And then just to give you a little bit more, also in the introduction, Donnie Cates writes, he talks about, he says, I kind of almost died again. And then when he recovered, he felt differently about what he wanted to do in terms of his comic book work. He says, this time I awoke wanting to talk about the things I loved, the things that made my life worth living. I wanted to talk about comics. I wanted to make something that captured the excitement I felt at 11 years old, rabid and huddled in my room, reading dog-eared copies of Youngblood and Wildcats and Spawn and Savage Dragon. In short, I wanted to make something big and bombastic, but also small and intimate and connected to a larger, almost infinite world filled with shocking guest stars that, man, I'm still pinching myself that we got to play with. So we'll come back to that idea. That's what the book is about, generally speaking, and why it's about. So I will say, just to start with, I will say Cates' enthusiasm that he just described certainly explains the Jeff Shaw cover to this collection with the kid reading the crossover comic itself. So it's a cover within a cover within a cover. So with the colors from the comic book just kind of exploding the kid's face off into this 4-color dot matrix type pattern. Anyway, it's really cool. But do you feel the same way that we're supposed to feel, like Cates described? So I'll talk about that later. Just to give you a little bit more specificity about what this book is about. And I have to say, I spent more time kind of describing what this book is about to help explain or to talk about the book than I normally do, but we'll see how this goes. So it says here, this is issue 1. On January 11th, 2017, the skies above Colorado opened up, and what could only be described as a superhero summer event exploded into our very real world. According to ground reports and footage, almost every, quote, fictional, unquote, comic book character you have ever heard of has been sighted amidst the chaos. You name it, from green men with fins on their head to men dressed as bats or spiders or gods with giant hammers. People have claimed to have seen them in the footage. No one knows how, no one knows why. If it was a comic, it would be the greatest selling book of all time. But it wasn't a comic book, it was real. And here in the real world, a superhero mega summer event has consequences. And then they talk about the dome that was mentioned in the description of the book that goes up around Denver. And so it's been some time since the event occurred, and then we get the rest of the story, which is the rest of this collection. We are introduced to Ellie, named by her writer parents as Ellipsis because, quote, the ellipsis is the great unknown. I will give Kate's points for punctuational wordplay. Points for punctuational wordplay. Say that 5 times fast. In fact, I just saw on Twitter on the day that I recorded this, I saw someone, or no, I guess it was yesterday during DC Fandom, that someone had a tattoo of an ellipsis on their finger, something like that, and somebody was commenting on it. And it was basically the same kind of thing. It was what the ellipsis means. It is the unknown. It is wonder. It is what could be, right? So I it's funny how these things, maybe it was even Kate's, I don't know, how these things kind of conglomerate as I immerse myself in the comic book world, either the books I'm reading or the larger fandom out there on social media. So I thought that was kind of neat. Anyway, back to Ellie. She wears a mask, gloves, and a hoodie as, quote, kind of suit of armor. She also works in the only comic shop located in Provo, Utah, which, interesting, that sells pre-event comic books. I'm not sure if that means that it's the only comic shop in Utah that sells them or the only comic shop that sells them. So I kind of took it to mean the latter, but that seems kind of weird. Weird that it's in Utah. No offense to you Utonians. Utonians? I don't know. It seems like a weird spot for a comic book shop in that sense. I don't know. I'm not making any sense here. All right. The shop is owned by the irascible Otto, which we heard about before, who in the first issue, I guess ironically wears a Wortham was right t-shirt, even though Ellie calls him out on this, and he admits, yeah, that's probably a dick move on my part. But so then what sets up the series in this first issue, he notices a little girl, Ava, he thinks is trying to steal a comic book. But then he and Ellie discover that the little girl has dots all over her skin, like the coloring technique in old comic books. And so that's how you know that this person that you're interacting with is from the other place, from within the dome, and is part of the event, the crossover event. Anyway, Elle and Otto know that Ava is not supposed to be outside the dome in Denver, but Ava tells them that a man from inside sometimes takes people out of the wall, and then she draws a picture of him, and it's Superman, or at least a guy with an S on his chest. It's because it's drawn. She's what? I don't know, 6, 8. No, she's more than 6. I don't know, 8-ish. I want to say. But anyway, so it's drawn in a very childlike way. And then overlaying this scene that I just described is this unknown narrator who is not Ellie or Otto. I'm not sure who it is, actually. I don't think in the 6 issues that we know who that is. So anyway, I might be wrong about that. But anyway, the narrator is telling us that this story is about hope, and that's the point we see the Superman drawing. Superman is about hope. Ellie then decides to take Ava back to Denver, dragging Otto along with her, and then these other characters as well that show up, in hopes of finding not only Ava's parents, but her own parents. So Ellie, we have been told in this first issue, or at least it may not be the first issue. Anyway, that she once lived in Denver, and her parents got her out before the dome went up. And so on this journey along the way, they meet up with, and this is when the book got fun, and this is partly why I wanted to read it. Although I did not know that we would get these characters specifically, but they meet up with the Paybacks, another Donny Cates comic book that I got the first series. No, I got the first and second, I think. Anyway, and Madman, the character Madman, they help them reach and then get inside the dome. And that's where we see a bunch of other superhero properties from various creators. For example, like Max Damage from Incorruptible, Savage Dragon, Witchblade, Luther Strode, Samaritan from Astro Comics, Retro Girl from Powers, and others. So I dig that aspect that like Kate said in his own introduction, that he got to play with all these different properties, or at least include them. So I'm really hoping we get to see more than just cameos of these characters. I don't care which ones, but it's just really cool to see to see all these characters all together like this. I mean, you normally don't see things like that these days. So I particularly appreciated that aspect. This collection does end with a reveal I did not see coming, but I suppose once you go back, it was telegraphed from the beginning. So, kudos to Cates and the other collaborators on pulling that off. And I won't say what it is, just in case you have not read this yet. So I love how Cates and Shaw are playing with comic book production and publishing tropes, such as crossover events and printing techniques of the past to bring that into the whole story. Speaking of, the art team did a phenomenal job on this because it's a superhero comic book about superhero comic books, including, like I said, the dot printing, the guest characters, likenesses, and whatnot. So very well done. Just generally, writing, story, the art, it was a lot of fun. It really was. I'm looking forward to volume 2. However, did I feel like Cates described in his introduction the excitement I felt when I was 11 again? Not really, except for maybe when I see all the guest stars making their cameos. But it was more like I was more excited. I'm still more excited about where the story is going and just how they Cates and company plan to touch on, elaborate on the meta aspect of this, the comic, like I said, the comic book production publishing aspects. What does it mean to have a superhero mega event, crossover event, play out in the real world, and not just for the damage that it causes. And, why is this going on? Why are all these characters fighting, as we see in the particular issue, fighting each other? Because normally, there would be a fight, right? I mean, that is one of the superhero comic book tropes, is that characters get together and they fight and they realize, oh wait, we shouldn't be fighting each other. We should be teaming up against, X, bad guy X, right? So why is this continuing on? Why is this event ongoing for some time? I think it's years, but I'm not really, I can't remember if it actually states that or what. So, and then there's the added aspect. I forgot to mention this in issue 2, I think it is. Issue 2 opens up, with a news report. Comic book writer found dead. 14th comic book writer to be found dead in the last 3 weeks. Chip Zdarsky, Scott Snyder, and Robert Kirkman still missing. And the writer who's dead that they're reporting on is Brian K. Vaughan. As the news reporter states, Brian K. Vaughan, acclaimed Marvel Comics writer. Marvel Comics? What? Has been found brutally murdered today in his palatial New York home. So, what's up with that? What's this part of the mystery? What does that mean in relation to the overall story, the bigger story? I think it has more to do with There's a particular religious zealot involved in this, and his son, which becomes part of the band, along with Ellie and Otto and Ava. So, you get that team up aspect. So that's interesting. So maybe it's just that, or maybe there's more to it. I don't know. But I'm very interested. I'm looking forward to reading volume 2. Okay, that is all the books I'm going to be talking about today. If you have any feedback for me, send it to longboxreview@gmail.com. You can leave comments where this will be posted at the website, longboxreview.com, or you can interact with me, as always, on the social interwebs, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at longboxreview. And with that, I will leave you. Thanks for listening, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.